Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Grand Theft Auto 5 has been out for 10 years now, and as a literally lifelong GTA fan, I've of course been playing pretty consistently since release. I've spent a pretty substantial amount of time in every GTA game, and I've fallen in love with their maps in one way or another, and Los Santos is no exception to that. However, and maybe this is just fatigue at this point, I've really grown tired of Los Santos and Blaine County. I'm not here to rag on Los Santos in this video. I'm also not going to sit here and explain how the map is bad. I understand the title Los Santos is boring might imply that, but I will be giving the map a decently fair shake, so hear me out. Grand Theft Auto 5's map was a pretty big departure from the regular tradition of GTA. Instead of multiple islands connected through bridges or tunnels, we were given this huge landmass. Instead of having multiple cities, Los Santos stands alone in its world, with only a few small towns dotted around the map. There's a small list of things that I'd like to go over to make my point, so let's not waste any time and get right into them. My main problems all stem from the size and overall shape of the map. The map is long and not overly wide, which in my opinion contributes significantly to how cramped it's come to feel. For example, if we look at GTA San Andreas, the map feels so much bigger than it actually is. The map was a big square, so you could travel for a while in any given direction. Most importantly though, the map is designed to keep you driving, meaning Rockstar will artificially inflate the time it takes you to get from A to B. They do this for a few reasons. Making the map feel bigger is definitely one of them, but it was also because of the limited resources of the PS2. They would have to find ways to slow you down so that the map could actually load. Essentially, by making the map tall and narrow, they've segmented the map into 3 layers. 1 is Los Santos, 2 is Blaine County, and 3 is Chiliad and Palito Bay. In order to go from Section 1 to Section 3, you must always pass through Section 2, and it makes it so that you're always taking the same routes and passing the same scenery. While Section 1 is distinct, 2 and 3 kind of blend together to where it's difficult to draw a line between them. They're very similar, except one is kind of a desert and the other is greener and contains a forest. And Chiliad. Over time, at least for me, sections 2 and 3 have kind of blended together entirely, leaving my mental image of the map to look like this. Section 1 is Los Santos, and Section 2 is just the countryside. Let's use GTA 4's Liberty City as a point of comparison this time, a map much smaller than GTA 5. Section 1 would be Broker and Dukes, Section 2 is Bohan, Section 3 is Algonquin, and Section 4 is Alderney. There's also the matter of these small islands and Happiness Island. For the sake of argument, let's add them into Sections 1 and 3. These locations are distinct, all separated by bridges and tunnels. They all have their own vibe, and they provide a convincing backdrop for a longer journey. Unlike Los Santos, the design of Liberty City allows for a better sense of scale. You'll find yourself traveling between these different sections in many more combinations, making the more mundane driving gameplay feel just that little bit more immersive and a lot more varied. Traveling between the countryside and the city has become quite tiresome. The scenery never changes and the route never changes. This is made worse by the freeway that runs the entirety of the map. This is a long road, the longest road that there's ever been in a GTA game. This loop provides various access points to all of Los Santos and Blaine County, and is the quickest way to drive across the map to get pretty much anywhere you need to go. Now with all of our fast cars and aircraft and online, this has only exacerbated the issue. Many of the fetch quests tell you to go to Blaine County, so you fly north, and then you get what you need, and then you fly back south. It's always constantly up and down, north and south, or if you're lucky, south to north. The map just isn't wide enough to have you go far east or west. Why? Because there's no land there. The actual size of the map doesn't really matter when your perception is telling you otherwise. The issues that I've mentioned, as well as the speed of vehicles and aircraft in particular, make traversal of the map too easy. It may sound counterintuitive if you don't think about it, but it should have been much more difficult to roam the map. The freeway looping the map was the worst decision in my opinion, but I do think that flying in some ways needs to be restricted too, or at least just made a little bit more difficult. If there was a decent amount of restricted airspace on a map, it would make you have to think about your flight plan a little more, just a little bit, but I understand there are people who might not like that. The city has a fair amount of detail. You can never fault Rockstar on that. This certainly is a version of LA, with everything that comes with it. One of the many problems with setting your game at a place that's purely superficial and hollow is that the map may start to feel purely superficial and hollow. I'll say the design is stellar, as Rockstar's design usually is. From downtown to the suburbs, each area is successful in conveying a unique character. However, because the scale of Los Santos is what it is, their version of Los Angeles has been condensed down quite a fair bit, so there isn't much of a natural blend between these areas. They are more or less just placed right next to each other. Los Santos has to carry a lot on its back because it is the only city. GTA 5 also saw significantly less accessible interiors than its predecessor, meaning you can't explore the world quite as deeply as you might want to. When you realise that you can only enter a few stores around the city, all of which look like a copy and paste job, you can kind of start to see the city around you for what it really is, a facade. Granted, you still have your enterable strip clubs, a police station, and the 3 tiers of clothing stores, barbershops, tattoo parlors, convenience stores, etc. None of these are too substantial though, and like I said, there's a lot of copy and pasting going on. Not a lot in the way of unique locations. And then there's just the LA angle. I'm sorry to say that I'm just not a huge fan of setting GTA games in LA. San Andreas gets a pass because that game takes you all over Los Santos, the countryside, San Fierro, the desert, and Las Venturas. 5's problem, again, is that Los Santos is the only city in the game, filled with the same plastic people and just not much in the way of things to do. Exploring the map doesn't feel quite as rewarding as the other games, and once you're done exploring the whole city, that's it. No more city to explore. The excitement of, oh, I can't wait to see what comes next, can't really be completely fulfilled because as soon as you reach the countryside, you realise that there's even less to do out here. Blaine County and the Chiliad Mountain State Wilderness aren't really that far removed from one another. In the desert, Sandy Shores sits along the Alamo Sea, as does Grapeseed on the opposite side. Near the very top of the map you'll find Palito Bay, another small town that adds next to nothing besides the mission that you do there. You never really have a great reason to go back. The same is true for Grapeseed, though it does have an airfield. Mostly though, the countryside is just wasted space. Because the map is so narrow, the desert isn't really much of a desert at all, made worse by the fact that it's surrounded by green in almost every direction. It stands out as a missed opportunity to do a proper desert and towns instead of the tiny communities we ended up getting. Besides Chiliad and Palito Bay, there's not much else, besides a small forest next to it, which seems to be kind of a theme, right? Small? There's so many useless hilly and mountain areas that add nothing to the game, as well as a level of detail that I think is slightly lacking in the northern portion of the map. The most interesting location is that weirdo camp up in the forest. All of it feels kind of wasted. This could have been alleviated somewhat by map updates through DLCs, but this never happened, in the story mode or online, and we're left here in 2024 with a map stuck in 2013. Over 3 console generations, something needed to change somewhere. With 6 around the corner, we're about to repeat the cycle over again, and it will likely be another 10 years before the next one comes out. At least. What the game needs is longevity. Red Dead Redemption 2 achieved this perfectly. The world was jam-packed with detail, and I'm still to this day finding new landmarks and locations, and even NPCs that I've never seen before. Thankfully, GTA 6 will be taking us to the state of Leonida, and judging by the fan mapping project, the map is going to be huge, just like Red Dead Redemption 2. With what they've learned, I hope they'll deliver. Los Santos was fine for a few years, but it just didn't have the legs to go for this long. Thank you all for watching. If you hit that like button, it helps me out a ton because it helps the video get seen. So thank you very much for doing that. Take it sleazy.